Due to the nature of this video, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a backstory before playing it. Some of my more avid watchers may remember that back in the beginning of April, I had my motherboard back for just a few days before sending it back to Asus because it had the same issues I'd originally sent it out for. During this time, Jimmy and I recorded a dual commentary for his channel to celebrate the fact that he had just posted his 200th video. His whole channel is gone now. Due to this, as well as the fact that I only just now stumbled upon this old audio track sitting on my hard drive, I figured I may as well throw it on my channel with my own video playing in the background. I do have his permission to do this. I apologize if any information said by anyone in this video is incorrect or otherwise misinformed. We're human too, and we occasionally get things wrong from time to time. Oh, and the reason you'll jokingly hear me call Jimmy a country hick in a moment is because he was using an excessively thick southern drawl immediately prior to starting the video. He was supposed to use it for the intro, but right at the last second, as he hit the record button, he decided against it apparently. So, without further ado, enjoy the video.
Hey everybody, welcome to a dual comm with Bahamut 2K456. That was a really crappy intro, I know, but oh well.
Country hick.
Yes, I know. I blame where I live. And also, if you hear any random unmutings and static, blame Hey How Am I, because his mic is retarded. But he's not actively taking part of the discussion, so just, yeah. Anyway, we are here to talk about the possibility of not being able to do and sell and buy used games with the next console generation. Now, Baha, what is your opinion on this? What side of the fence do you stand on?
I don't know. In a sense, I'm kind of for this option because I will admit openly that the used game sales are cutting into the profits of the developer. And while people make the argument that they won't receive, like people who make movies and books and stuff like that, they don't receive money when something's sold used. The selling of used books and movies are nowhere near as prominent in most places as used game sales, in which case there are entire stores devoted to it.
This is true. Now, I would agree with your view, but there are people out there who act like it's the end of the world, like everything is just going to die after used games are banned. And I don't understand why people are just freaking out about it, because, I mean, you save, what, $10 most, well, I mean, if it's like a year old?
I would say that the used game market, like the loss of the used game market, wouldn't necessarily be a massive hit on us as consumers. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that, well, I mean, obviously I play consoles and PC, so I do buy used games from time to time. And I've gone into GameStop and seen things that are $50 currently on sale for $15 just because it's old stock and it's been sitting so long they want to get rid of it. And also, used games are usually what end up in the big bargain bin sales after consoles are starting to go out, or from the beginning of a console lifespan. Like right now, if you walk in any GameStop, I can guarantee you there will be big bins of 360 games going for $5 because no one's buying them anymore. And
PS2 games.
And, well, yeah, PS2 games, obviously. Those go for under like $1 now. But, I mean, it's kind of that reason that people are freaking out about this, because you do save quite a bit of money in the long run just by buying used games. And there's a lot more price variation due to games being used, because GameStop controls them, not the retailer.
This is true.
But again, that's for us as a consumer. The developer's getting screwed out either way.
This is true. But do you think that this is more of a stab at the used game, or is it an attempt to curb piracy? I've heard that as well, too. I don't know exactly how killing the used game market is going to stop piracy, but I've heard that as well.
I guess, in a sense, the way it's being described, the way the rumors are describing it, you could say that it is a stab against piracy, because they require an online activation to be played on the console, period. And that's not exactly the most eloquent solution for it, but that is a way to combat piracy. But at the same time, all security measures can be hacked and online activations can be turned into offline activations, really. I can't really think of another way to describe it. If a console exists, it will be hacked and software will be pirated for it. That's just how it works.
That's how anything works nowadays. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of awesome at the same time when you think about it.
To be honest, I'm kind of for it, because I think everything's going to go to direct download in a year or two.
I honestly don't think anything will go direct download anytime soon.
I think it will. I think Blu-ray is going to kill the movie business, and I think games are just going to go direct download. See, I take that back. Maybe not a year or two, but it will eventually because.
Oh yeah, not eventually it will.
Oh yeah.
But not
It's
in a
not
year or
accepted
two.
right
It's
now.
the year
People
or
look
two
down
thing
on
that
it,
makes me
but-
turn against it. Because
Yeah.
right now, most of the country does not have the high-speed bandwidth required to keep up with the growing rate of games. Like Blu-ray discs, for example, you're not going to download 50 gigabytes of data within like an hour. Whereas if a game was released, like if you wanted to buy a game on a release day, you could just go to the store, pick it up, pop it in your console, and play it. But if it was download only, you'd have to, wait till release day, start downloading it, wait, 3 to 4 days for it
Then
to
you'd have to-
download.
And then you'd have to like deal with server outages when they're overhit and stuff like what happens with Steam a couple times.
And honestly, it's kind of unfortunate that everything's moving to download only because I do prefer to have a retail copy of a disc. That way, if servers ever bum out, I can just pop it into my computer and install it, or pop it into my PS3 or 360 or PS2 or God knows what console and play it.
Your Genesis.
My Genesis, yes, my Genesis. Oh,
Another thing.
And your NES that plays discs.
Yes, the NES.
It plays
discs.
Blu-rays.
My
plays
VHS player NES. But another thing is like money variation. I think people that don't really have a lot of money should still have a chance at gaming, and that's why I've always kind of supported used games because I'm getting games offline or online for like 75 cents. When at my
Yeah, but then again, you're buying
they're like
games from
$50.
last generation though.
But at the same time, the main reason that I would agree with used game sales is not necessarily so that the poor person can get them. And I hate to phrase it that way, because, I mean, obviously I don't have money all the time. I know how it feels to not be able to afford games.
Oh
But
yeah, we all do.
new games do end up eventually going on sale for cheap because there are always going to be copies that haven't been moved. And while that lifespan is going to be increased if there's no used games because people are going to be forced to buy the new games, what happens when we move from one generation to the next? Games are no longer being produced for the previous generation of system, and used games don't work for it.
That's a valid point.
Essentially, that system becomes a stagnant brick. You can no longer buy more games for it unless you download them.
But would that not be what they wanted?
That is exactly what they've wanted, and that's my point. That developers, to an extent, are becoming a little entitled. Almost as entitled as the gamers themselves are.
They're just starting to get more corporate than it already is.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
He's saying that they're becoming more corporate.
Which is true. It's not exactly unwarranted because I mean they deserve the money that they make. But then again, if like for example, 20 years in the future, the PS4 is finally phased out of existence, then you just have this gigantic brick that does nothing.
And I think that's going to be the really disappointing thing, especially, actually, believe it or not, the lack of used game sales is really going to hurt smaller publishers. Like, not the big end people like Naughty Dog or Activision or people like that.
Yeah.
But the smaller people, like, I'm trying to think, like maybe Atlas, even though they're not so small anymore, Exceed Publishing, things of that nature, just smaller developer companies.
Mojang.
Well, no, not Mojang. Mojang's huge. What are you smoking?
They were really small before Minecraft,
But the thing is, a lot of games become popular through used game sales. And while necessarily when you buy a used game, you're not immediately giving money to the company because you're not purchasing a copy of the game that was actually bought from GameStop or from wherever you're buying it from. But if it is GameStop, for example, when enough used copies of a game are moved, they will start buying new copies again to meet what they expect to be a higher demand. And a lot of games are missed out the first time around, and when people buy them used, they become like a popular thing. I like the Disgaea games, for example. When those came out, they were really unpopular at first. But people, once it started becoming popular, people would buy the used games, and that's kind of how it turned into a little bit of a cult hit, where people got into it through the used games and then found it was really good and started buying the sequels. And now the sequels are impossible to find because they're immediately sold out as soon as the game is released.
Huh. So there's both a good side. There's both a good side and a bad side to this. It's not clear whichever side is the victor.
I mean, I would say that used game sales are a bad thing, but I don't think that phasing it out entirely is the way to go. I honestly would think that a more elegant solution, and I'm sure there are far better ways to do it, but just off the top of my head, within the 5 seconds I've had to think about this, wouldn't it be easier to, if someone buys a used game, they have to buy it online, but they get it discounted? They're saying for the Orbis and for the Durango, you're going to have to activate your games online once before you can even play them. So what they might end up doing is, if you have a used game, you put it into your console, and it'll say, hey, you know, this game is used, you can't play it unless you purchase another license, but since you bought it used, you do get a discounted price, like that kind of thing. Where essentially, instead of paying full price, you would just have to pay like an extra bit of licensing, just to be able to run it.
That's not bad.
I mean, I'd be okay with that, especially if it was only like a $10 fee.
Yeah, $10, $15. That's not bad at all.
And that sounds kind of stupid, because usually you buy a game to only save $10 or $15, but at the same time, the developers are really only seeing $10 or $15 in the first place, because or not even the developers, the publishers, because when they sell it to GameStop raises the prices a lot on new games for retail pricing. And to be entirely honest, if that's all they're making in the first place, why charge more? And if you're saving like $10 when you buy a game used and bringing it back, it seems kind of stupid to have to pay another $10. Why not just buy it used new at that point? But then you also have to look at all of the games in the store that go for far less than that. Like when the new game is like 40 and the used game is now 10 or 15. And in the end, you're still saving like $20.
That would work. The only downside about the whole online activation thing is you have to be online to do it, and I don't think that'll go over very well at all.
And I do think that's kind of annoying, but at the same time, they've already pretty much, like, the rumors are all saying that every single game released for the new consoles is going to require a one-time online activation.
It's true. But, I mean, like, I know there's a very good fraction of people who play Xbox and play PS3 that don't have internet connections, or at least don't have it for their PS3, or whatever. And they're going to cut that out.
Just as a footnote, I feel sorry for any of those people who bought a Bethesda game.
Why is that?
Because games like Fallout New Vegas, I suppose that's actually Obsidian, but when Fallout New Vegas was originally released on the 360, there was actually no way to access the end boss until it was updated, because the game would just crash every single time you went to go into the end boss.
Oh, wow. Oh, that could be a problem.
So anyone who bought New Vegas without an internet connection is boned. Horribly.
Day one patches annoy me, but that's a topic for another day. But, like, the online activation thing, it's just... that, to me, seems like if they did that, they'd be cutting out a huge part of their profits, because people who just don't have internet connections, don't have fast internet connections, won't be able to play it at all.
Yeah.
Now, unless they did something where it was, like, if your console has, like, never touched the internet before, then they let you activate it. But, like, as soon as you go online, then you'd have to activate it or something.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but at the same time, this goes completely against the piracy argument. They're trying to take out two birds with one stone with the one-time automatic online activation, and that completely goes against the other half, where if your console is offline and they just let you activate it, then you're going to be able to get pre-owned games, new games, pirated games, you name it, just because you were never connected to the internet.
True.
And plus, that would also discourage them making money from their online services. So that's like a triple loss for the company, so they would never do that. Even though it would be far more convenient for the end user, they would never do it because it would cause such a loss to them.
Yeah, true.
It's a little bit of a balancing act, trying to find like a happy medium between the company and the customer.
Another thing I think they're going for is the fact that I think most game publishers, they look at it and they go, oh, 75% of people have internet, 25 don't, 75 is better than 25. And they figure the loss they're losing from piracy, if they fix piracy, the pirates will actually buy the game, which they won't, because most of piracy is just no money in the first place, you know?
A lot of it, but some of it's like, especially for like Call of Duty, a lot of it are people just like, you know what, I don't give two shits about this game, let's steal it just to piss off the publisher.
And also what they don't take into account, I've noticed with a lot of my friends who pirate games, it's not because they don't have the money, and I understand in a lot of cases it is, and with some of my friends it is. It's not, but with a lot of the people I do know that pirate, it's not because they don't have the money, and it's not because they don't like the publisher or don't care about the game. It's because they want to play the game first before they go and spend money on it, so they know what it's like. Because a lot of games still are not releasing demos, or they're releasing demos that don't really show you what the actual game is like. So what some people will do, and this is why I love OnLive, they do this very well, where they'll just give you a set amount of time with the full game, and you can just run through it and play whatever you want. They'll like pirate the game, the full game, they'll play it for an hour or two, figure out if they like it or not, and if they do like it, they'll uninstall it, then go buy the full version and play that. And I love OnLive for that, because you can just take the free demo for like an hour and just play straight through for an hour, and if you like it, you can just buy it and keep playing from where you left off. And I think that's an awesome concept.
That's why I like OnLive, but I don't really use OnLive just because it's probably just because I played like Guitar Hero like a stupid amount when I was younger, but I'm like really sensitive to input delay. So to me, OnLive is unplayable. But I really do like the demo idea. It's really turned me on to some games that I would never play before, and it's made me realize that there are some games that I was really looking forward to. I just don't need to touch because I just don't like them.
On the topic of OnLive, I really like their service. I like the way it works, and the concept is great. But for whatever reason, whenever I try and use OnLive, I get a really bad input delay, and it just kind of looks terrible. If I play it at anyone else's house, I'm totally fine with it. Like, the input delay is noticeable, but I can still play. But at my house, even though I have a faster internet connection than everywhere else I've been, it doesn't work. I can't explain it. It's really weird.
It's the same way at my house too, but of course, like I'm like the only person I think on Windstream's subscriber base besides FPS Russia that has a faster internet connection than like their slowest package. So I really have nowhere else around me to go to test. But from everyone else I've been talking about, they're all like, oh, there's no noticeable input delay, and it's not really that bad when it is noticeable and all this stuff. And it's just like some games I've played are just completely unplayable, like Burnout, stuff like that. It just, you can't play it. But there's some stuff like Arkham Asylum and all that was playable, but it was still noticeable, and it's really weird. I will say though, whenever you're playing, like I played it on my phone the other day over, I think it was over 3G, I don't remember, but it seemed like it was actually better. Like there was less input delay over my phone. I don't know how they managed to do that, but they did. That confused me.
Well, yeah. To be fair, your internet connection's not the best.
Oh no, it's nowhere close to the best, but just the fact that using the exact same internet connection...
using 3G, yeah, that is kind of strange. What I'm guessing is your phone probably takes video at a lower resolution, so it doesn't require as much bandwidth.
It's 854 by 480, I think.
Well, yeah, compare that to 720p, which is 1280 by 720.
But my phone does display 720p, though. It can.
Well, yeah, most phones can.
It depends.
Unless you have an iPhone.
Yeah, in which case you're fucked.
Go Apple!
Hey, you want to view Flash? You're screwed.
But we have HTML.
Oh, I want to go on the record now and say that Flash on Android is it's a great concept, but it sucks.
Implementation is not quite so
I mean, I'm really impressed that I'm able to watch like full YouTube videos on my phone. But it's just the fact that if I put it anything above 360p, then it runs at like 2 frames a second. And then my battery goes from like 90 to like 5 in like 2 seconds. But other than that, Flash actually works really well. But anyway, we're kind of off topic now.
Yeah, we strayed a little from the beaten path there, I think.
Yeah. This might be a good place to end it, actually. We kind of discussed what we wanted to do and gave it closure. So,
I don't know.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
Is there anything that you would like to go back and reiterate?
This is kind of relating to the used games topic. I would actually kind of be interested to see if Steam could implement like a used game service. I don't know how they would pull it off. I don't think they would be able to without taking a hit, but it would be kind of cool to be able to go to like a, like say you can sell some games from your account to like some random people, like put it up on the marketplace, like, you know, the game retails for $15, you sell it for 10 or whatever.
Yeah. It'd be kind of cool.
I don't think they would be able to do that.
It would be interesting to be able to swap a account. Like, I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. Like, to swap tickets from account to account. Like, if you have a game that you no longer play, take, like, Mass Effect or something like that, and someone else wants to buy it from you, you can trade it for, like, Steam Wallet cash. That'd be a pretty interesting way to do it, because no currency would be leaving the Steam system, so theoretically they wouldn't lose anything. Yeah. But at the same time, if you think about it, then the other person... Oh, there's kind of some holes there, I guess, because you could just trade games back and forth, and you could just give games out.
Or what you could do is you could sell it to your friends at a lower price than what you paid for it. Like, for example, if Skyrim is like $25, you could sell it to your friend for $5, and, you know. Yeah, and then he could sell you Modern Warfare 3 for like $2, then, you know. But... Unless they like made it so that way it's like it has to be like a set price, like maybe $1 or $2 cheaper than the store, then it might work. But I don't know. It was just a thought, though.
I still would your earlier comment on how a lot of people don't have active internet connections that are playing current consoles and stuff. I think I would disagree with that to an extent, because most people who don't have an active internet connection aren't going out and buying, like, the more expensive consoles. They're probably sticking with older stuff like the PlayStation 2.
Actually, I have a lot of friends that until like within the last month or so have never been on Xbox Live. I can name at least 6 or 7 off the top of my head.
But is that because of an inability to connect, or because they just didn't care?
It's an inability to connect.
Are you entirely sure about that? Because I'm pretty sure.
I am entirely sure about that. Because my friend just doesn't have Wi-Fi at his house, and his parents won't buy a Wi-Fi router. They just refuse.
Yes, I know.
He would pay. He offered to pay for it and everything, and they were like, "No, it's not going to happen."
I'm just saying. I think if a console came out that did require online activation for games, there would be a startling increase of amount of consoles connected to the internet. Because most people who can afford to go out and buy things like a 360 or a PS3 can also afford to pay for the internet connection to use them. They just don't care enough, or their parents don't care enough, even though they do. And if their parents are like paying for this console, which let's be honest, the majority of gamers, their parents buy them the consoles.
True.
I know that seems kind of strange to think about, but it's true.
Especially up until the college age.
If hooking it up to their router, for example, in your friend's case, his parents refused to buy the wireless router. If they bought him the 360 and then the wireless router was required to make the 360 function or do anything with it, they would probably buy the wireless router so as not to waste the $300 they just spent on the Xbox 360.
You don't know his parents, but
I'm just saying in general.
He's an extreme case though, anyway. But that's beside the point.
But I do
someone
have to agree.
someone like Keith, like the Wi-Fi doesn't even reach his room. So even if he did get a Wi-Fi adapter, there's no way he can play.
I do have to agree though, and I don't think they require like a constant online connection. I think it's like literally a one-time activation just to link it to your account, and then you can go offline and do as you please, like Steam's offline mode. But
that would be better.
But I do agree that people who don't have an internet connection would definitely be getting the shaft there. They'd have to really advertise it and make it really well known that you have to have an internet connection to play games. It just seems like a bad way to do it. There's got to be a better way. But at the same time, if everything's being kept local side, there kind of isn't a better way. It's all going to move this direction at some point. It's just a matter of how soon it's done.
Yeah. I've heard rumors about them using SSDs. So that they would use that as a form to make sure, like, you wouldn't actually have like an activation code or anything. Like, you just throw the SSD in, and then it's like, okay, you're activated. And then whenever you try to throw the SSD in like your neighbor's console or your friend's console, it'd be like, hey, you're already active on this console.
It would be kind of cool if they default back to and anyone who actually knows anything about Sega arcade hardware is going to hate me for this, but a lot of old Sega arcade machines, they would come with security keys, where essentially to play a game you'd have to place the security chip inside of the board, or there'd be like a little plug on the back where you'd plug the security key in to run each specific game. It'd be cool if there was more of a modern iteration of that, where it was more like a little USB key, and you had to plug it into your console, and it synced a game with your console, and then deactivated itself, so it couldn't be activated on a different console.
That would be pretty cool.
And again, it would be kind of more expensive, but it would also cause people who don't have internet to not get the shaft. And that's still not taking the used game market into account, because I guess if they really wanted to, they could have it so that if you brought it back, you would have to have that key with it, and when someone else went to use it, they would have to plug that in, it would register as a used key, and they'd have to, do the whole license purchase thing online like I was discussing before.
Yeah, that would actually work really well. And then that way people who are offline could still activate games and everything.
Yeah, it seems like a better way to do it. And again, I just kind of came up with that off the top of my head.
It would probably be cheap. It'd probably be cheap, maybe not cheaper per se, but it'd be more efficient than using DVDs if you think about it. Like if they just take the flash memory of like a USB and just make the plug proprietary, kind of like the shape on the 360 memory cards.
I'm not even necessarily saying, like for example, it's gonna be really expensive to make something that requires that much storage in USB form. But I think what they should do...
Not really, you can buy 16 drives for $10 now.
I wasn't really saying that they should use it to store the game. I mean, they should use it to store an activation on. Like, you'd have a disk and you'd plug that in. Like, when it asked for an activation, you'd plug that in. It would read it as either new and modify the file or not. It'd have to have a proprietary plug so you can plug it into a computer and pirate games.
Yeah.
And it would have to be wicked secure. But I think it could be done. I think it'd be really awesome to do it that way. Just to... you plug it in, oh, this is a new game, congratulations, it's activated, you don't need to connect to the internet. Or plug it in, oh, this is used, sorry, you're gonna have to connect to the internet and purchase a license for it. For $10 or something like that. And it just
Yeah,
seems like a better way to do it to me.
Actually, it does seem like really well. You should send it to Microsoft.
Why not Sony?
See what they say.
I think Sony would be more open to that kind of idea because they're more into the proprietary hardware game.
They would, but
be
Microsoft
more
would come out with it, and then Sony would steal it and make it better. That's why I said that.
That, or if I proposed the idea to Microsoft, they'd say no, and then they'd take the idea and make something a little bit different with it and not give me any money for it.
Pretty much. Like, the only difference would be, like, it'd be like a double-ended stick or something. Like, one end was for the game and one was for, like, the activation key or something stupid like that.
I don't know, just, it's like the game key idea, it just seems like a more eloquent solution. And I'm sure people would get irritated, like they'd lose the stick or something like that and not be able to trade in the game. But it's much better than having people who can't connect to the internet to activate it for that sort of thing. Just completely be shafted and not be able to buy any games or consoles.
Which is true, but whenever I think about it, I mean, like, have you gone into a store and have you actually seen any memory card things for 360 anymore? I mean,
No.
the Slim doesn't even have memory card slots, right?
Yeah, that's because you can just use thumb drives.
Yeah. So that could be a problem as well. Like, I think that eventually they could just be phased out because, like, nobody uses them anymore, or, like, nobody just, like, sells used games or whatever, so they just eventually are just like, fuck it.
And, you know, to an extent, I'm starting to realize how ahead of their time Sega has always been. Like, the game key thing, that is currently a relevant idea. Sega's been doing that since the early Dreamcast arcade cabinets. And the VMU is basically like a de-evolution of the Wii U's controller. It's really kind of crazy to think about. Yeah, SegaNet and Xbox Live or PSN Plus. Well, yeah, actually SegaNet's more like PSN Plus. And hell, even Sega even had like a cable system for your TV where you could purchase games through your TV and play them. So
they were really ahead of their time.
Yeah, they really were. And I'm not meaning to sound like a Sega fanboy, but they had some really good ideas. It's kind of a shame to see them get out of the hardware business.
It is. I really wish they would come back and make another console. Mostly because I've never actually owned a Sega console, but I really wish I had at one point in my life because they're just so amazing.
I wouldn't
To be
even
honest,
say like
I will claim to be a Sega fanboy.
Mark would too.
Like all of I would hope Mark would. Mark's awesome. But I wouldn't even go so far as to say like the hardware itself was revolutionary. Because the hardware itself, like all the hardware they used, like the internals for everything, it was stuff that was pretty common for the time. They never did anything that was like, oh, this is super amazingly powerful, high-tech, awesome, futuristic. But they just had, like, the ideas. It's almost like what Nintendo's trying to do now, where they keep, like, trying to push the gaming industry forward, trying to, like, be innovative and all that. It's kind of like Sega was doing that behind the scenes and just not advertising it. They were coming up with all these great ideas and then just, I don't know, not really using them that much.
I don't think it was them not using it. I think it was just the time was just not right for them to be used.
That too. It's not. It's because people weren't as receptive to it, and it's kind of disappointing when you think about it. But in most cases, there always does have to be that one person to take the fall before something catches on.
That's true. I just wish it wasn't Sega. Can you imagine what would happen if Microsoft and Sega had like switched spots? Like Sega was the dominant one and Microsoft was the one that died.
I was about to say that. Should have been Microsoft.
But if you do that, you risk the rage of all of the Microsoft fanboys who think that Call of Duty is an exclusive Xbox title.
But if you would have killed Microsoft in the beginning, there would have been no Microsoft fanboys.
Well, then we wouldn't have the personal computer. We'd just have Macintosh.
No, but then you'd have Linux fanboys going, we're still good.
Well, no, because they'd have to install it on Macintosh computers, and Macintosh computers aren't very happy with being reformatted.
No, we'd all just buy Raspberry Pis and be done with it.
Also, what I was stating before, someone always has to take the fall before something becomes popular.
Yeah.
With PCs, that was Apple initially.
That's true. Apple.
Back when they were originally coming up with the Apple OS, like the Lisa 2, I think, and all that, when they were coming up with the new GUIs. Apple had to take the fall for it. Their crap was not popular at all. And then Bill Gates went, hey, let's make Macintosh, but not Macintosh. And boom, instant popularity.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. The one thing that I really wish happened was that Linux took off. Because right now it's really just a hardcore fanboy thing.
Yeah.
I really wish that became a mainstream OS. Like, I would love to just walk into a school and see like 10 computers all running Linux. I would jizz. I'm not even gonna lie.
That's probably the most immature thing you've said this entire commentary.
Probably.
I honestly wish that Linux was more popular, if only because it's so much better optimized than Windows is. And Windows, I do use it obviously as my main OS. I have nothing against Macintosh, but it doesn't do some of the things I want it to do. I can't do major gaming on Macintosh. But Linux is just so sleek and it makes an excellent workstation. But it doesn't have executable support, obviously, because it's a Windows thing. But if there were more if there was more developer support for Linux that weren't indie developers, like if more major games were out on it, hell, if Steam made a Linux client, I would be using Linux a lot more.
Oh yeah, I would too. I can't. One thing that I really want to see is something along the lines of Wine, but in reverse, because there's so many really cool applications that come out for Linux, like that PS3 DualShock emulator that lets you use mouse and keyboard.
But that's
that
why you
only
have
run on
VirtualBox.
Linux. What?
That's why you have VirtualBox, like virtual machines.
Oh, you can actually run Linux apps natively on Windows?
No, you'd have to run them in a virtual OS, I think.
So I'd have to like use VMware or something.
Probably.
Oh well. But one thing that I really do like though actually is the fact that Linux will actually, like, full Linux Ubuntu runs on my phone. That's how high tech it is. On my old phone even, it has like a 600 millihertz processor, and I think like 80 megabytes of RAM, and it runs just as smooth as my quad-core i7 with 8 gigs of RAM does. It's ridiculous.
Well, what confuses me, why did you correct yourself from megahertz to millihertz when you were right the first time?
I was right. Dang it, I get the two mixed up all the time.
Millihertz is less than a hertz, and 1 hertz is like 1 wave per second.
I'll get it right eventually. Maybe.
Millihertz is like 0.001 hertz.
That's like whenever I keep like going, oh, my internet downloads at 12 megabytes per second, and you're like, no, it doesn't.
Well, the thing is, you finally started saying it correctly. You're like, oh, it's 125 megahertz, and then you correct yourself back to millihertz, where before you were saying millihertz and correcting yourself to megahertz. So now you're just going reverse. You can't go backwards down the river.
You've never met me in person before, so you wouldn't know that, but I've tried, and I succeeded. I lied. I really didn't succeed. And I lied. I didn't really try it, but you know what I mean.
So is there anything else you'd like to discuss in this long and drawn-out dual commentary video?
/ mini podcast. I don't think so. Talked about all kinds of stuff, really. Chase, do you have anything else you want to add? Well then, on that note, I think we'll just go ahead and end it here.
John Romero is my bitch.
And on that note, we're going to end the video here. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you leave comments, rate us, subscribe to both of us. There'll be links to both our channels and probably even Chase's, even though he like never uploads videos. But yeah, thanks for watching. And be sure to tell us your ideas and whether you agree with us or not. And, just go have fun in the comments. We all like to know. All right. See you guys around.